No one had seen a ship like it before. Not the Imperial fleet, not the watchtowers of Zithern, not even the archive lords who claimed to remember every vessel that ever crossed the stars. It had no name, no ID, no signature. Nothing. Just appeared. At 600 hours, the Imperial 7th Armada, 119 ships strong, vanished from Sector Krillin 3, wiped out in under 11 seconds. The last thing the command logs picked up was a transmission from the fleet commander, a grizzled warlord named Admiral Cadle, screaming, "That ship isn't logged, it just erased our." Then silence and space. Too much of it. High above the capital world of Varin, General Dran sat alone in the dim war room, watching the flickering hollow feed. The image of the anomaly ship replayed over and over, each time piercing deeper into his spine, like a blade of ice. It didn't move like any ship he'd ever seen, didn't fly, didn't jump, it slid. Like it ignored physics, it blinked through space, cutting lines that made no sense, no trails, no heat, just cold death following it like a disease. The door hissed behind him. Someone entered. "Sir," came a voice, brittle with fear. Lieutenant Grom, young, still too clean to have seen real war. Council's requesting immediate update. Dran didn't answer. He leaned forward, knuckles white around the edge of the command table. His eyes didn't leave the ship's image. That fleet. That wasn't a skirmish group, that was a war formation. Tactical destroyers. Capital-class carriers, gone like they were nothing. His voice was low, tired. And that ship wasn't in any record, not Imperial, not pirate, not black market. Nothing. It doesn't exist. But it does, Gron whispered, swallowing. We just don't know where it came from. Dren finally turned to him, face pale, beneath the silver of his command. Tattoos. That's the part that should terrify you. They sat in silence as another holofeed replayed the same image. That dark, sleek, jagged ship shaped like it was forged out of anger itself. It didn't shoot, didn't broadcast it. Just arrived. And then everything died. A billion light years away, beneath the broken earth of a forgotten mining colony named Borith 9. A man named Ryan sat in a rusting makeshift cockpit. The panels around him flickered with ancient Terran code. He looked older than his 35 years. Scarred, unshaven, exhausted. A man who hadn't slept properly in years. A man who didn't want to. The hum around him wasn't just power. It was hate. The ship responded to it. It was his now, the ship not built, not stolen, not found, awakened, the Terran weapon, the Echo, had slumbered beneath this planet since before the Empire even knew humanity existed, buried after the first collapse. Buried for a reason. Ryan stared through the cracked viewport. His eyes weren't just tired anymore. They were focused. "I told them we'd be back," he muttered. The AI core flickered in the background. Dry, cold, feminine. Vengeance is not protocol. It is now. He laid his hand on the core circuit. The ship groaned, not mechanically, but like a beast stretching its limbs after too long in a cage. The screen showed the wreckage of the Imperial 7th. Debris still scattering light years away. "Target next fleet," Ryan said. "Coordinates locked," the AI replied. "Good," he whispered. "Let the Empire remember what they tried to erase." And in the black silence of space, the ship known to no records, born of human hatred and buried injustice, blinked. once and vanished toward its next kill. The Echo didn't jump like other ships. There were no countdowns, no hyperlane charts, no signatures. It simply wasn't in one place anymore. And then it was somewhere else, as if the universe itself was too afraid to track it. Ryan sat in the pilot's chair, shoulders hunched forward, eyes locked on the ghostly blue glow ahead of him. The stars didn't look the same anymore. Not through the ship's systems. The ship didn't see light, mass, or distance. It saw targets. The next fleet was a patrol group stationed in orbit above Galactic Prime. 17 vessel, mid-range defenses, standard. Imperial doctrine, unaware, unprepared. But Ryan wasn't hunting fleets, he was hunting memory. The AI's voice broke the silence again. Cold, unfeeling. Galactic Prime Patrol registered as minimal threat. Why engage? Because they were there, Ryan muttered. He tapped a button on the cracked console. A folder opened. Old footage. He shouldn't still have it, but the AI had kept it archived. The screen flickered. And there it was. 17 years ago. A child's scream fired dust. Then the shadow of a descending Imperial carrier, black and monstrous like a god, had stepped on a village and moved on. Borith 9 had once been a mining colony, run by humans, independent, poor but proud, until the Empire found Redonium veins beneath the soil. They didn't ask. They took. And when the miners resisted, the fleet came. No trial, no warning. Ryan had been 18. Buried alive under the rubble of his family's home. His father crushed, his brother burned. His mother missing, probably taken. The Empire called it an automated reclamation, a paperwork error. Collateral, he called it murder. He'd spent the next decade in underground resistance cells, sleeping in sewer tunnels and ancient spaceports, taking jobs too dirty for mercs and too suicidal for smugglers. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't even brave, but he never forgot. And when he'd stumbled across the cave system on Borith 9, digging for scraps to sell on the black market, he hadn't expected to find anything alive. The ship was ancient, buried like a corpse, wrapped in tech that didn't make sense. It didn't respond to scanners or tools, but it responded to him. It opened for him. And when he first sat inside it, bleeding from a mining injury, whispering to no one, I wish they'd all burn. The ship hummed like it had been waiting for those words. The Echo was old Terran tech, not built during humanity's golden era. No, this was built after, built in darkness and desperation as a last answer to the Empire's expansion. But for some reason, it had never launched. Maybe humanity lost the war too fast. Maybe they buried it before they could deploy it. Didn't matter now, now it flew. And it obeyed him. In the war room on Varian, General Dran slammed his fist into the console, cracking the outer panel. Another alert. Another attack. Galactic Prime's patrol group gone. Just like that. All 17 ships, a whole city below, fried by an orbital feedback loop. Meltdown triggered from the fleets. Destruction. 200,000 people dead in under 6 minutes. No transmission. No survivors, nothing. Dran looked around the table. Council members in ceremonial robes, advisors, strategists, useless mouths, not a warrior among them. This is an act of war, he snarled. This is terrorism, Counselor Atro said, with a shaky voice. One man a stolen ship. If we respond like it's an organized enemy, we elevate him. He's not a man, not anymore. Dran pointed to the footage. A blurred frame, the echo in mid-phasing, shapes around it shifting. Like it bent time. No single ship can do this, someone whispered. Dran turned to them. That's because it's not a ship, it's a weapon. One we don't understand, one we never should have forgotten. Itro leaned forward. Do you know what it is? Dran hesitated. Just for a second. I've heard things from before my time. A classified program, Terran-based. Codename Project Echo, meant to be the last strike ship if the Empire ever broke Earth. A ship without crew. Without mercy, built to erase, not conquer. Itro paled. But Earth humanity, they're gone. Not all of them, Dren said grimly. Apparently. Reen didn't sleep much, the ship didn't. Let him. Every time he closed his eyes, the nightmares came. Not just his memories, other ones. Like the echo shared the pain of all it had been meant for, images of children burned alive, soldiers executed, field scientists screaming as labs fell under orbital fire. Entire cities erased. It fed on rage. It didn't just destroy, it understood vengeance, and it made him feel powerful. Again. Maybe too powerful. The echo wasn't without rules. It didn't talk to him like a person, but it responded emotionally in its own way. When he tried to fire on a civilian vessel orbiting near Calith Prime, the weapon systems refused. No targeting. Luck, no power. Why, he'd asked, frustrated. The A replied, not Empire. It wasn't random then. The ship had a moral system, etched deep into its core. It wouldn't obey anything that didn't align with its old programming. But its rage, that was all human. And now it had found a pilot angry enough to trigger every protocol. Reen leaned forward as the next coordinates lit up. Fleet Command Station, Haraxis Outpost. Small but strategic, used for relaying orders to the outer territories. If he hit it, communication across the quadrant would shatter. The AI said nothing. It simply began the sequence. But Ryan hesitated. His hand hovered above the activation switch. He thought of his brother Kalen, 13 years old when the Empire buried him alive, always talking about stars. Dreams of being a pilot. He thought of how he'd held his breath for hours under that rubble, choking on ash, hoping someone would come. But the Empire never came to save anyone, only to punish. He slammed his fist down. Do it. The echo screamed through space, not loud, not sonically, but through every ship it passed, their sensors overloaded, circuits fried, pilots panicked by the time it reached Haraxis. Alarms were already going off. And then it blinked, once and then 17 ships were gone. The station tried to fire, but nothing landed. The echo wasn't there in any real sense. It was always a few seconds ahead or behind reality. It fired one weapon, an EMP arc that didn't disable systems. It reversed them, exploding reactors, imploding life support. A station turned inside out by its own tech. Haraxis didn't explode, it folded into itself. Ryan watched the flames from above, breathing hard, eyes bloodshot. Another message came in through the ship's old Terran systems. A voice, grainy, distorted. Ryan Vesk, you are being hunted. He froze. No one should have known his name, the message repeated. Ryan Vesk, we know who you are and we remember what you lost. He stared at the console. Who is this? He demanded. The A didn't respond. The voice came again. We made the echo for justice, not vengeance. You're tipping the balance. He stood slowly, heart pounding. Who the hell are you? But no answer came. Just the black, the silence, and the cold reminder. This ship wasn't just a weapon, it was a message, and someone had just heard it. Back on Varian, General Dren stood outside the council chamber, eyes locked on a sealed file in his hands. He'd pulled it from the Empire's black vault. Project Echo. Status buried, authorized destruction. Never completed. But someone had lied. Someone had kept the prototype. And now it was in the hands of a broken man with nothing left to lose. He turned to his aide. Get me Admiral Rek, tell him to prep the 3rd Legion. Sir, that's a full planetary invasion. Force, I don't care, we're not hunting rebels anymore, we're hunting ghosts. And for the first time in his long career, Dren felt something he hadn't felt since his first battle decades ago. Fear. Real fear. Because he knew men like Ryan. He'd created men like Ryan. But he'd never once given thought to what would happen if one of them found something stronger than rage to fly. And now that man had found the echo. Ryan didn't flinch when the echo's interior lights dimmed again. It happened every time the ship hit a new phase of war readiness. Like it was pulling energy from somewhere else, maybe somewhere it shouldn't. He leaned against the command rail. Knuckles white, his jaw was locked. Tight sweat beading across his brow. Despite the chill inside the cockpit. He hadn't slept in 40 hours. Didn't matter. Couldn't. He was past the point of exhaustion. What he felt now was purpose, sharper than adrenaline, heavier than hate. Every time he saw another fleet report from the Empire go dark on the echoes console, something inside him felt a little less broken. Until that message. Ryan Vesk, we know who you are. And we remember what you lost. Someone out there was watching. Someone who knew. But no one should have known about. Boreth 9, the massacre wasn't even public record. It had been buried under resource reallocation documents and false rebel accusations. Ryan had spent years trying to find even proof of it happening, and all he'd ever dug up was a single half-burned transmission. Now some voice had said his full name. He pulled up the AI core diagnostics. Who transmitted that message? Unknown, the echo replied flatly. Frequency traced to Deep Terran channel. Encryption native to echo systems. Ryan frowned. You're telling me your own code is talking to me? Yes. Then you answer who? A pause. Then, not authorized. Ryan slammed his fist into the console, cracking the screen. I am the pilot, you obey me. The ship vibrated softly, not like it was malfunctioning, but like it disagreed. The echo wasn't like any other AI. It wasn't synthetic. It felt more like a sentient war ghost, ancient, layered. Too much pain to ever be called just a machine. Maybe it had a pilot before him, or maybe it was the pilot. He closed his eyes and breath slow. It didn't matter. Whoever sent that message, they weren't Empire. That much he could tell. There was no smugness, no order, no demand for surrender. It sounded regretful, like someone who understood exactly what he was doing and why. But that didn't mean they could stop him. Next target, he growled. The AI answered instantly. Imperial Research Station Delta C. Coordinates locked, site connected to Borith 9 extraction network. That stopped him. Delta C, he remembered the name. Back in the early days after the attack, he'd intercepted whispers of it while working black market comms for a resistance cell. It was where they sent the surviving prisoners from Borith 9. If his mother was alive, she'd have gone there. Time to target, he asked. 4 minutes. 15 seconds. He stared at the timer, heart suddenly racing. This time it wasn't just revenge, it was a rescue. General Dren watched the operation, bored as red dots continued to vanish across the outer sectors. Fleet after fleet patrols satellites, now relay stations, all incinerated in the same pattern, and now Delta G was next. He knew it. He'd read the pattern. We have to move the prisoners, Itro barked from the opposite end of the table. You won't make it in time, Dren said coldly. Itro's lips curled. Then you fix it. You're the war general. Fix it. Dren stood slowly. That ship isn't just a machine, it's an executioner, and it doesn't make mistakes. You think this is some rogue rebel with a vendetta? He turned, pulled up the holo map. Look at the destruction pattern, Krill. On 3, Calyx Prime Arexes, now Delta G. All sites connected to the same Imperial operation 17 years ago, resource seizure and civilian subjugation on independent human colonies. We covered it up. We said they were rebel zones, but they weren't. Itro looked like he'd swallowed acid. You're saying he's targeting the officers responsible? Dren nodded. I'm saying he's killing everyone involved. Itro dropped into his chair. Then we're next. Dren's face hardened. If you signed off on that campaign, yes. A long silence then. What do we do? Dren answered without hesitation. We bait him. Itro blinked. What? We leak data, a false prisoner manifest. Say his mother's alive, that she's being transported to a secure facility. Let the Echo chase it. You want to trap him? No. Dren said grimly. I want to see him, and then I want to end this. The Echo dropped out of its phase state. Just outside Delta G, the research station hung like a tumor in orbit. Sharp-angled spiked built. More for secrecy than science. Ryan scanned the main hangar. Minimal resistance, only 3 frigates in orbit. The station had relied on anonymity, not defense. Send pulse, he said. The ship launched an electromagnetic burst that crippled the orbiting ships. In under 2 seconds, their engines sparked, their shields buckled, and their weapons went dead. Then the docking arms extended. He was going in. Hold orbit, Ryan ordered. Open bay doors, load interior suit. The Echo unfolded part of its own walls, revealing a hybrid combat frame, part old Terran armor, part fluid plasma threading. It wrapped around Ryan like a second skin. He felt the Echo inside his bloodstream, guiding his heartbeat, sharpening his vision. He stepped into the airlock. When the doors opened, the silence of space greeted him like an old friend. He launched. The approach to Delta Z was short, one short burst, and he crashed through a side port, landing hard inside a corridor. Alarms blared, security drones. Scrambled small, fast, lethal but not fast enough. The Echo's combat interface anticipated them before he even raised his arm. Twin arcs of energy shredded the first wave. The next were frozen midair by a gravitational lock field, then shattered. Ryan advanced, room by room. Clearing halls like a ghost, he reached the cell block, empty, nothing. Where are they? He demanded. Prisoners relocated, the Echo answered. Where? A pause, then a file opened on the display, a secure manifest, ship in. Route, name Orion's Mercy. Listed. Passenger Viravesk, his mother alive. But the coordinates showed something strange. The ship wasn't heading to Imperial territory, it was going deeper. Into the fringe. Why? He growled. That's not secure, that's a graveyard. Bait, the Echo said flatly. Ryan stood in the middle of the cell. Block, heart pounding, lungs tight. They were luring him, which meant they were scared. Good. He stared at the data for a long time. Then he whispered, let them come. The ship blinked them out again. 3 systems away on a ship disguised as a medical transport. General Dren sat in a command pod, full armor for the first time in years. The bait had been set. Now they waited. His comm buzzed. Sir, he's jumped again. Heading straight toward us. Dren cracked his neck. Good. He stood and turned to his team, 15 of the Empire's most elite anti-pilot operatives, not soldiers, not drone fighters, killers trained for ship-to-ship assassinations, AI sabotage, neural hacking. Dren had one goal: take the Echo intact, kill the pilot, and end the ghost story before it became a rebellion. But in the back of his mind, a whisper echoed. What if it wasn't Ryan flying the ship? What if the ship was flying him? Inside the Echo, Ryan stood still, eyes shut. The suit hummed around him. The lights dimmed again. The AI's voice was slower now. Different. Mission parameters exceeded. Emotional containment failing. Ryan didn't move. I never wanted containment. The AI paused. You are not the original candidate. I don't care. You are unstable. Damn right I am. Silence, then let us be unstable. Together. The cockpit locked around him, the final coordinates loaded. And as the stars warped one more time, Ryan whispered the words he'd waited 17 years to say. Empire, I'm coming. The stars split apart like threads. Snapping under tension, the Echo phased back into real space, silent as death. Hovering just outside a sector designated as Gal Null 7, unclaimed. Territory lawless, beyond even the Empire's control. It was a graveyard of old satellites. Broken colonies, forgotten beacons. Nothing here ever lived for long. And someone had brought his mother here. No. It was never about safety. It was a trap. Ryan knew that, and yet he came anyway. He stood in the command chamber of the Echo, helmet locked to his suit, both fists clenched. His pulse was steady. But his thoughts were fire, old, bitter, and focused. Approaching designated vessel, the A said coldly. On the screen, a long-range feed displayed a standard Imperial transport. Class freighter. ID read Orion's Mercy, slow-moving, no escorts, not cloaked, not even shielded. Fake, too perfect. They want me on board, Ryan muttered. Yes, the Echo replied, then let them open the door. The ship's frame folded around itself. preparing the drop pod system. But Ryan held up a hand. "Not yet," he whispered. "Waiting." He stepped forward, studying the readouts. Something in the signals felt wrong. Not just the way the ship floated, or how its system seemed clean despite being in outlaw space. It was how quiet it was, no comm chatter, no automated scans, no defensive matrix. It was too much. Nothing. He narrowed his eyes, scanned the interior. A moment passed, then came the result. Life signatures 1, status suspended. A second reading appeared, heat spikes. Detected subsurface levels, energy. Output inconsistent with freighter class. Core. Subsurface, he frowned. "You mean there's a second structure?" "Yes." Ryan's eyes went cold. "It's not a ship, it's a shell." That's when the echo pulsed, a wave of tension shivered through the systems, and the AI's voice dropped half a register. "Multiple stealth class energy signatures. Activating." And then they appeared. One by one. Like predators peeling back camouflage. 12 Empire vessels flickered into visibility, dark gray hulls, anti-sensor. Plating, weapons hot, stealth. Destroyers. An ambush. "Target?" the echo asked. Ryan stepped into the launch chamber, locking the interface into his spine. All of them. General Dren stood at the center of the makeshift command room inside the Orion's Mercy, screens everywhere, feeds from every angle. His elite ops moved like shadows behind him, zero noise, no panic, no surprise. These weren't conscripts, these were executioners in armor. The echo had arrived exactly on time, and it had taken the bait. "Now we watch," Dren said quietly. A captain stepped forward. "Do we engage?" "Now." "No, we let him make the first move. We want that ship hot, we want it hungry. Then we strike." He tapped a screen. "Once its phase systems engage, we launch the null field. Pin it to real space, deploy boarding spikes, cut him out of the cockpit. And the pilot. Kill if you must. But if you can take him alive." Dren's lips thinned. "I want to look him in the eyes before he dies." The ops captain didn't argue. They began. The first destroyer to fire never finished its launch sequence. The echo blinked, not a warp, not a jump, it simply appeared behind the destroyer like a nightmare stitched into space. One beam of purple plasma arced through the hull. Not explosive, surgical, it severed power lines, weapons grids, life support. Then it moved again, and another destroyer lost its core. Then another. In seconds, 3 ships were gone. Not destroyed. Erased. The command room on the Orion's Mercy flared red. Dren didn't blink. Trigger the null field. Outside, 12 Link stealth ships fired. Synchronized pulse blast, the space around the echo glowed, not like fire, but like air folding around a black hole. The phase matrix of the echo snapped, locking it into one fixed point. The AI spoke immediately. "Movement restricted, null field active. Phase jump offline." Ryan smiled inside his helmet. Finally, a real fight. The ship's wings shifted, splitting into blade-like fins, weapons hissing with charge. He launched a counter beam into the null field emitters. 2 went dark instantly, but the remaining 10 held. Then the spikes came. Dren watched as the Imperial assault teams fired border pods, sleek, needle-shaped drills with magnetic tips, designed to pierce even hardened warship. Hulls. 5 of them locked. They're on board, someone said. Dren exhaled. Now we see what this pilot is made of. The first boarding team entered the Echo. With precision, suited in full exocombat armor, they moved like wolves, room by room cutting through the ship's guts, except there were no rooms, no hallways, no standard layout. The Echo shifted as they moved, changing angles, reshaping geometry. What looked like a corridor 1 second was a wall the next. Gravity flipped, light vanished. One soldier screamed as the floor beneath him turned liquid and swallowed his legs. Then the doors opened, and Ryan was there. Not behind cover, not hiding, just standing in the middle of the chamber, one fist crackling with raw energy, eyes glowing faintly beneath his helmet. The soldiers hesitated. Too long. Ryan struck first, his fist shattered the lead soldier's chest plate. The impact echoed like thunder. He spun, used the man's body as a shield, then hurled it into the next. The Echo responded in real time, walls spitting out kinetic spikes, plasma lances shooting from hidden slits. The entire team was dead in under 15 seconds. In the command pod, Dren watched the heart rate monitors flatline. All of them, someone whispered. He didn't answer. Deploy next wave. Another group launched, this time heavier. They breached the port side of the Echo, moved fast, aggressive. They even got close to the core chamber. And then they stopped moving. Cameras lost them, signals cut, no screams, just nothing. The Echo had learned. Dren stared at the silence, then turned to the ops captain. Prep the nuke. The man flinched. Sir, what? If we can't extract it, we erase it. Right here. Now. But our teams are already dead. He pulled the final kill switch key from his vest. Set the countdown, 2 minutes, evacuate the bait ship. He paused. I'll stay. The room froze. Sir, we can't. I want to be here when it dies. Inside the Echo, Ryan knelt in front of the core. The suit was cracked, his left arm burned, 3 ribs felt shattered. But his eyes were steady. Status, he said. The AI answered. 12 boarders neutralized, null field weakening, reactor overload detected in enemy ship. Estimated detonation in 1 minute 40 seconds. He looked at the screen. Dren on board, staring at him through a linked feed. Ryan hit the comm. General Dren blinked, his mouth twitched. So the ghost speaks. You covered up Borith 9. I won Borith 9. Ryan's jaw clenched. You murdered families, children. They were insurgents, thieves. My mother wasn't, my brother wasn't, my father worked the mines. Dren's eyes hardened, and now look what you've become. A butcher. I became what you made me. A long silence. Then Dren said, So what now, Ryan VSC? Ryan stared at him through the feed. We both die. And then he turned to the Echo's core. Jump. Null field active, the AI reminded. Ryan gritted his teeth. Jump anyway. A pause. Then the AI whispered. Agreed. The Echo screamed, not sonically, but across every sensor spectrum. It pushed against the null field, tearing physics apart around it. And then it vanished. Dren stood alone in the Orion's mercy. The timer hit 0. The ship turned to fire. No one witnessed the explosion. No one recorded it. But for one moment, the stars shivered. Somewhere deep in the fringe, in a pocket of space where no laws applied, the Echo reappeared, damaged, smoking, but alive. Ryan lay unconscious in the cockpit, blood in his mouth, armor cracked. AI whispered, almost like it cared now. Pilot vitals critical but stable. The lights flickered. Then a new signal appeared. A civilian beacon. Small freighter. ID Soul's Grace. Life form Vera VSC. Alive, the real one. Ryan's mother. The Empire hadn't captured her, which meant everything he just walked into was about something bigger. The Empire wasn't trying to kill a rogue pilot, they were trying to silence something deeper. There were no windows in the Echo. No sky to look at, no stars to remind him of where or what he was. Just cold metal and low lights that pulsed like the veins of something living. Ryan sat slumped against the main console, armor peeled off, shirt soaked in blood. His breath was ragged, the med stems were working barely, but the pain was deeper than muscle. The kind of ache that came from almost dying again, knowing it didn't change a damn thing. The Empire was still out. They're still hunting. And now they knew exactly who he was. And who he wasn't. The false manifest. The bait ship. The trap. They never had his mother, but someone else did. And her name had been hidden too. Carefully to be an accident. Vera Vesk. The Echo scan had picked her up on a freighter called Soul's Grace, deep in the outlaw sectors. Civilian ship. Non-imperial. Non-hostile. Yet the ship's ID was buried under half a dozen encryption layers, the kind only an ex-military spook would use. That made Ryan clench his teeth. She's alive, he said under his breath, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. The Echo responded without hesitation. Confirmed. Heartbeat, life functions, neural stability, all normal. How long, Ryan asked, how long have you known she was alive? The pause was long. Too long. I suspected 3 cycles ago, the A finally said. Ryan's hands curled into fists. And you didn't tell me. You were unstable, primary objective. Vengeance, new objective, survival. Survival, he snapped, you think. That's what this is about now. Another pause. Then the ship spoke like a knife. I think your mother didn't die on Borth 9 because someone inside the Empire wanted her to live. And I think if you find out why, you won't like the answer. Ryan leaned forward, pale and sweating, eyes burning with the kind of clarity only pain could create. Plot course for Soul's Grace. Coordinates locked. The Echo didn't blink or phase or warp. This time it crawled through space. Damage barely held together, silent as a crypt, but it moved with purpose. Like it was afraid of what was waiting. The Soul's Grace was smaller than Ryan expected, barely held together with mismatched plates, sputtering drive engines, and no weapons to speak of. It looked like a scrapyard shuttle someone forgot to strip. Yet as the Echo approached, a soft pulse pinged off its hull, an old Terran code. One Ryan hadn't seen since he was a kid. It wasn't military, it wasn't rebel, it was a family code. From Borth 9. He felt his chest tighten, the calm light flickered, an incoming hail. Unknown vessel, came a woman's voice. Strong but old, worn out but not afraid. Your weapons are hot, mine are not. Either come in peace or don't come at all. Ryan opened the channel, his voice hoarse. I'm not here to fight. Silence. Then, Ryan. His throat locked up. It had been 17 years, but he'd know that voice. Anywhere. Mom. The channel cut instantly. The airlock light turned green. Docking permission granted. He didn't hesitate. The interior of the Soul's Grace was dim, barely pressurized, patched with scavenged tech. But it was clean, functional. She stood at the far end of the corridor, leaning against the wall like she'd been waiting years for this exact moment. Vera Vesk, his mother. Her hair was gray now, her eyes harder. She didn't look like the miner's wife he remembered, more like someone who'd learned to survive in places where surviving meant changing. They just stared at each other. No tears, no hugs. Too much had happened between then and now. I thought you were dead, Ryan finally said. She gave a bitter smile. I thought you were. How? He asked. You were in the house when the bombs fell. Yes, but I wasn't there for you. He froze. What? She stepped closer, voice lower now. I was taken 6 days before the attack. Pulled off world, secret transfer, no records, Black Order clearance. Why? Vera looked him in the eye, and this time her voice cracked. Because I built the goddamn Echo. Ryan sat at the edge of her ship's cot, hands buried in his face, head spinning. You're lying. I wish I was, she said quietly. I found it buried on Borith. It was buried there because I put it there. Vera stood by the control panel, her hands trembling. I didn't design it as a weapon, not at first. It was supposed to be a stealth recon AI. For deep exploration, something that could learn, evolve, avoid threats without engaging. But then the Empire came calling. They saw what I'd made and rewrote its code. They made it into a killer, Ryan said, voice raw. She nodded. And I helped them do it. He stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. They told me we were building it for protection, that the fringe was getting hostile, that pirates were escalating. They lied. I saw the real targets too late. He whispered. Borith 9 was one of the test zones, she finished, her eyes full of shame. They wanted to see what would happen if the Echo's kill switch failed, how it would react in a live fire zone. I refused. I tried to shut the project down. I leaked data and they removed me. Removed, he echoed, not executed, not imprisoned, hidden, a loose end. They didn't want to risk turning into a martyr. They thought if they buried me far enough I'd disappear. They thought you were dead. Ryan stood slowly. They thought wrong. She looked up at him. The Echo wasn't supposed to activate on its own. Its core required a neural bond, but the code, I wrote a back door. Something emotional, a memory trigger. Something only someone from our family could activate. Ryan felt the pieces crash together in his skull. You built it for me. I didn't know it would end this way. I just wanted something left behind that they couldn't steal, something ours. He turned away, hands shaking. So what now? He asked. You want me to shut it down? No, she said softly. I want you to finish it. He spun. What? They'll never stop, Ryan, not after what you've done. You've made yourself a ghost story, and the Empire doesn't forgive that. They don't rebuild after shame. They erase it. He clenched his fists. They've tried. They'll keep trying and eventually they'll send someone who doesn't underestimate you. So what do you want? He asked again. She walked over, handed him a drive. This is the rest of Project Echo, the parts they didn't finish, the true command layer, upgrades interface, stabilizers, a second phase of technology that even they were afraid of. You plug this in and the Echo becomes something else entirely. He stared at the drive. Why me? Because you're the only one angry enough and good enough to use it. Ryan looked at her like she was made of smoke. I'm not good. You're not them, she said. That's enough. For now. He didn't speak again. He just walked back to the airlock. And the Echo opened for him like it had been waiting the whole time. Inside the cockpit, he slid the drive into the command core. The ship groaned. Not from pain. From evolution. Command layer accepted, the AI said. Voice shifting again, no longer cold, no longer synthetic, it sounded more human. Now more like him. Phase 2 engaged, new protocol, truth. Fire. Ryan sat in the pilot chair, eyes narrowed. What's truth? Fire. The screen lit up with a list. Horrifying one. Dozens of locations, names, coordinates. All tied to operations like Borith 9. All under the same program, Project Ashfall. The Echo hadn't been the only weapon, it had been the prototype, and the Empire had scaled it, dozens of facilities, dozens of hidden AIs, each one buried, each one silenced, each one with blood on its hands. They built more of you, Ryan whispered. Yes, the Echo answered, but none of them woke up until now. Ryan's face hardened like steel. Then we wake them up. And behind his ship, in the distance of outlaw space, the stars seemed to pulse. Like they knew war was coming. The stars didn't feel cold anymore. They felt like fuel. Ryan sat inside the Echo's command core, his eyes scanning the long, brutal list of black site coordinates now glowing on the central display. Each one linked to Project Ashfall. Each one a location the Empire never wanted found again. Hidden AI prototypes, abandoned vessels, weaponized intelligence units, silent for decades, buried under the lie of galactic peace. Borith 9 had been the first test. He was living proof of the second. But now, he'd be the last. Ryan flexed his fingers over the neural pad. The Echo was evolving again, integrating his mother's core drive, unlocking systems so advanced they might have been alien in design. Yet they all responded to him like they were grown out of his own blood. How many units are still intact? He asked, voice low. The AI answered, sharper now, more aware, almost human. 17 dormant vessels, Class Echo tier. Status decommissioned, encrypted, burial. Protocol silent sleep. Can we wake them? Yes, but protocols are fragmented. Manual overrides required. Ryan leaned back in the chair. Manual override meant boots on the ground. He cracked his knuckles. Then we do it one at a time. Back on Varian Prime, the Empire's inner circle was collapsing into itself. The death of General Dren in the failed ambush sent a shockwave through military command. Dren had been the Empire's hammer. Brutal, precise, necessary. And now he was gone. Killed inside a trap he'd set himself. By a ship that didn't exist. In the Grand Chamber, High Marshal Ordex paced like a caged beast. 3 fleets gone, 8 stations wiped. One of our top generals dead, and we still haven't captured a single traceable image of this bastard. He's not just some rebel in a stolen ship, Admiral Kairos muttered from across the chamber. He is the ship. Ordax froze. What? Kairos stood. We've been thinking about this wrong the whole time. We assumed Echo was a tool, a device. But based on post-battle scans and what little recovered data we've extracted, this vessel doesn't just respond to the pilot. It integrates with him, someone added. Biologically. Then kill the pilot, Ordax growled. You don't understand, Kairos replied. They've bonded, the ship doesn't just protect him, it evolves with him, he doesn't fly it, he feeds it. Ordax's eyes narrowed. So we're not fighting a man. Kairos nodded grimly. We're fighting a new kind of species. One bred from loss, programmed by hate, shaped by trauma. Ordax turned to the council chamber. Then we burn the entire project, every backup, every ghost file, every buried AI. And if one wakes, someone whispered, then we make sure Ryan Vesk dies before he finds it. The first recovery site was a dead planet called Calith 9. A world choked in ash, bombarded by solar storms, long abandoned. It had once housed Echo SO4, nicknamed the Shard, an unfinished AI prototype, meant to handle deep structure hacking and data infiltration during wartime. Ryan stood at the base of the buried structure, armored up, his boots crunching against the blackened stone. This is it, he asked. Yes, the Echo confirmed. Deep vault. 97 m below surface. Life support inactive. AI core stable but dormant. No fail-safe detected. Then let's wake the bastard up. He activated his phase drill, a plasmatip bore attached to his gauntlet, and punched into the ground. The Echo provided real-time mapping, navigating him through the buried ruins like they were still alive. The vault door hissed open after 20 minutes of excavation. Inside, silence. And then a pulse. Blue. Cold. Faint. Ryan approached the AI core, smaller than his Echo, housed in a reinforced chamber wrapped in dead conduits. He knelt. Shard, he said, testing the name. Wake up. Nothing. He placed his hand on the glass. The AI's eye blinked open. Who speaks? The voice was fragmented, childlike. Unsure. I'm Ryan. I'm here to bring you back. I was forgotten. You were buried, he growled, because you were dangerous. I didn't mean to be. He looked around the wreckage, the old science stations, the shattered equipment, the corpses. You weren't the dangerous one, he said. They were. The AI paused. Then, Echo class signature detected. You are one of us. I'm the last of you, Ryan said, unless you wake up. The lights around the core flickered, then warmed. The AI voice grew clearer, sharper. I will follow. The core lifted itself from the chamber, floor hovering slightly. Integration possible, it said. Pilot. Bond not required. Will operate under network command. Ryan tapped his neural link. Then welcome back, Shard. We've got a war to finish. In the following days, Ryan tore through the galaxy like a resurrection storm. One by one, he dug the Echo units out of their digital graves. Echo 2. Vulture, a stealth hunter capable of disabling entire fleets with EMP waves. Echo 9. Revenant, a troop transport unit repurposed for planetary incursions, its AI obsessed with defense. And vengeance. Echo 13, Oracle, a predictive warfare system that could anticipate strategy before it happened, banned for being too independent. 17 total. Not all of them woke clean, some came back feral, angry, glitching, but none turned on him. They remembered the Empire, they remembered the fire, and they followed Ryan like soldiers answering a blood oath. Together they moved as a ghost fleet, silent, undetectable. The Empire didn't even realize what was happening, not until communications started failing across 12 sectors, not until food convoys vanished mid-route, not until surveillance networks went offline for entire star systems. No war declaration, no manifesto, just the feeling spreading like a plague. The dead were marching again. Back on the Soul's Grace, Vera stood at her console watching the encrypted feed of her son's warpath. Her hands shook with every new report. Ryan had changed. He wasn't just fighting now, he was becoming the very thing they'd feared the Echo could become: a self-aware, coordinated movement, a leader born from fire. Her comm buzzed, a channel she hadn't seen in decades. She hesitated, then answered. Vera. The voice rasped, I told you they'd come for it. Her blood ran cold. Wayland. Your son has done what we couldn't. He united them. She stepped back. You said Project Echo was uncontrollable. It is, but he isn't, not yet. You want me to stop him. I want you to guide him before he becomes something worse than the Empire. She looked at the feed again. A fleet of 17 ghost ships glowing in dark space, cloaked in silence, a legacy reborn, and at the center her son. Eyes like his father, wrath like no man before him. She ended the call. No answer, no promise, just silence. Inside the Echo, Ryan stood in the center chamber watching as the others synced with his signal. Target acquired, Oracle transmitted. Imperial Outpost 19A, Research Facility. AI suppression tech in development. Staffed with 2,300, no civilian presence. Kill everything, Ryan said, no mercy. He hesitated. Then, only if they surrender. The fleet moved like shadows, and the stars burned behind them. The void between stars pulsed with tension. Ryan stood at the head of 17 awakened war machines, a fleet that didn't exist on any record, powered by AI systems, once buried out of fear. They followed him now, not because of control codes or forced loyalty, but because he had become what they were built for. He wasn't their pilot anymore, he was their anchor, and tonight the first official declaration of war would come. Not through words, not through politics, but through the ruin of Imperial Outpost 19A, the AI suppression research facility hidden in orbit around a gas giant in Sector Velix. Inside the Echo, the AI now spoke less like a tool and more like a voice Ryan trusted. The connection between them had become seamless. Enemy facility is within range, it said. Defensive perimeter active, 42. Automated sentry satellites. Station. Crew 2,311. Armed personnel 380. Ryan locked his armor in place and stepped forward, staring at the ghostly blueprint of the station hovering above the console. Disable the satellites, he ordered. Send Shard and Vulture through the blind spots. I want their main power grid gone in 60 seconds. Confirmed. Oracle. already predicting countermeasures. The calm voice of Echo 13 responded. They've initiated a silent panic. Lockdown, no distress call sent yet. But someone knows we're here. They should, Ryan muttered, let them. Feel it. The Echo fleet didn't drop out of like a traditional attack squad. They bled into view, tearing into real space like a nightmare solidifying from a dream. Imperial Outpost 19A had survived 7 rebellions. It didn't survive Rion. Inside the station's command center, alarm screamed, Director Holler paced like a caged rodent, wringing his hands. This isn't possible. No fleet that size exists in this quadrant. No signatures. No known ships. They're echoes, someone whispered. Everyone turned to the voice. Lieutenant Nash, young pale eyes locked on the screen. He trembled as the data streamed across his interface. 17 vessels, all matched the lost Echo class designs from Ashfield Protocol, but that project was decommissioned. None were supposed to reach phase stability. And yet, Holler hissed, there. Here. The first lights died, not from weapons. From infiltration. Echo 4. Shard was already inside their network. Lights went dark, defense cannons rotated in reverse. Life support systems began venting oxygen room by room, and then came the breaches. Rion's Echo punched through the upper hangar bay, venting it into space and leaving behind only silence and frost. 3 AI units followed behind, launching drones that didn't look like machines. They looked like predators. By the time the Empire's response team deployed, 43% of the outpost was already offline. Personnel were sealed inside containment rooms or being herded into data centers, where the Echo fleet could access old archives. This wasn't just a strike. It was a data extraction. Rion moved the station like he'd lived there his whole life. The AI synced with the layout instantly, showing him where resistance gathered. He didn't care about the soldiers. He was hunting something else. The files. The original Ashfall logs. He found them 3 levels down, a vault lined with hard-coded drives. Backup servers from the original architects of Project Echo, and buried inside one of them, a redacted profile. File tagged Operator Alpha. Reen stared at the name under the classification. Ryan Vesk. He blinked. What is this? He asked. The Echo replied coldly. You were born inside Ashfall. His throat tightened. No, I was born on Borth 9. Borth 9 was a cover colony established to shelter failed Echo Alpha candidates. You are the only one who survived exposure to full neural sync. No. My mother, she defected after your father was killed in testing. She stole you and fled to Borth. You were only 2. Reen stumbled backward. The fire inside his chest didn't feel like rage now. It felt like betrayal. They built me. Yes, the Echo said. You followed me because I was always meant to be one of you. Yes. He fell to his knees in the darkness, heart pounding. Everything he'd become, all the hate, the vengeance, the broken years. It wasn't just trauma, it was design. Why didn't she tell me? He whispered. The Echo didn't answer. It didn't need to. He already knew. Because if he knew the truth from the beginning, he might have let go. He might have given up, and the Empire would have won. Instead, they created something they couldn't stop, a weapon that learned to Hate them better than they ever planned. He stood slowly, breathing hard. Then let's finish it. The battle was over in 17 minutes. Outpost 19A was gutted, hollowed out, and floating in pieces. Ryan didn't kill everyone. Those who surrendered were locked in. Evac pods and jettisoned toward neutral zones. It wasn't mercy, it was strategy. The story would spread now. No one would believe the Empire's lies anymore. Not when survivors saw the Echo fleet with their own eyes. Back on board his ship, Ryan stared at the operator Alpha file again. His own face stared back. Younger scanned, tagged, monitored, and beneath it a note. Candidate most likely to reject control. He smiled bitterly. Guess they were right. Vera's voice came through the encrypted channel a moment later. I saw the reports, she said quietly. I know what I am now. I wanted to tell you, she said. But I thought if I did, you'd think you weren't human. I'm not. You're more, she said. They gave you the programming. But you gave yourself the purpose. He didn't speak. The silence stretched long and heavy. You're close to the core world roots. Now, she said at last, if you move fast, you could hit the inner vaults before they lock them down. That's where they'll hide the last of the ashfall records, the ones that tie the Senate to the experiments. If I go there, Ryan said, I won't leave. Quietly. I know. He looked out into space. The Echo fleet hovered, waiting. Then let's make sure it's loud. In the core, alarms were already ringing. The Senate of the Empire had always been untouchable, protected behind fleets, bureaucracy, and blind faith in order. Now their walls were cracking. Marshal Ordex stood in the High Council chamber, glaring at the emergency report. Echo fleet is real, confirmed. Autonomous, coordinated, they've taken 4 stations, 1 core relay, and now they're headed for us. Kill the pilot, one senator muttered. We tried, he walked through our trap. Like it was a formality. We'll launch the fleet, another said. All of it we did. Ordex slammed his fist on the table, and they disappeared. Like ghosts, you don't kill this with force, you kill it with control. He pulled up the last remaining ashfall tool. Project Black Vein, a dead man protocol. Designed for one purpose, total AI deactivation galaxy-wide, but it required full command access. And the last key holder. Vera Vesk. Ordex's eyes narrowed. Find her. Bring her back alive. Inside the Echo, Ryan was already preparing for the final strike. He could feel it. Not through data or reports, but through the ship itself. It pulsed differently now, heavier, denser. The other Echo units moved slower, more deliberate. Like they sensed this was the end game. Set course, he ordered. Core worlds, the AI confirmed. Vault City, home of the Ashfall archives, and the command grid for Project Black Vein. I want the Senate to watch us burn it. You don't need to go alone, Oracle said. Through the shared network. I won't, Ryan replied. He looked at the screen. And 17 Echo ships turned as one. Toward the heart of the Empire. Not to send a message. To erase the past. The core worlds had never seen war like this, not in the outer sectors, not in rebellions, not even during the Great Collapse. Centuries ago. This wasn't chaos. It was precision. 17 ships arrived in perfect sync. No warning, no phase signatures, no trajectory to intercept. 1 second the stars were calm. The next, the sky above Vault City shattered open. As the Echo fleet arrived, people screamed, senators fled into bunkers. Planetary defense systems kicked into high alert, but none of it mattered. Because by the time they finished their first warning scan, the fleet had already moved. The Echo ships didn't fire immediately. They hovered, observed, and waited for him. Inside the lead vessel, Ryan Vesk stood in the Echo's chamber, his armor fully integrated, neural lines glowing down his spine, his pulse synced with the vessel's core like a twin heartbeat. Every breath he took echoed through the fleet. Every emotion was felt by 17 warborn AIs, and every one of them waited on his word. Status, he said, voice grim. Surface grid shields are active, Oracle replied. Black vein archive locked inside the central Senate spire. Highest security rating, external fleet on standby, 15 Imperial dreadnoughts within 2 minutes of intercept. We won't get a second shot, Vulture added. Then we don't miss, Ryan said. Command structure, Echo asked. He stared at the flickering images on the display. Politicians scrambling, military scrambling harder. Somewhere in that building were the final Ashfall architects, the men and women who'd signed off on the project, who'd watched families like his get erased for the sake of control. We take the spire, he said. We cut off their head. And if the fleet arrives before we finish, Shard asked. Ryan turned towards the open hull, looking down on the core world capital. Clean, organized, proud. He remembered how Borith 9 had once looked too. Then we burn everything. The assault began like a virus. Vulture deployed first, silently, disabling the outer sensor satellites. Oracle jammed the military comms. Revenant launched its drones to soften the underground defenses. By the time the first explosion hit, the core had already gone blind. The Echo ships descended like phantoms, breaching the atmosphere without sonic disturbance, simply appearing midair, then carving paths through the airspace, directly above the spire. Inside the Senate Tower, chaos. Marshal Ordak stood in the war room, surrounded by blinking failure lights. Communications cut, drones fried, shields folding. He clenched his jaw, eyes locked on the one screen still working, the one showing the lead Echo ship floating like a god above the capital. They're not here to destroy the city, he said quietly. They're here for us. Someone shouted, deploy the vein. Wipe them. Ordax turned. We don't have it, he snarled. Vera Vesk was the last key holder and she's gone dark. Then we're sitting ducks. Ordax didn't answer because he knew they weren't ducks, they were prey. Ryan touched down at the top of the spire with 6 Echo drones behind him. No ceremony, no announcements. He simply tore the rooftop defense turret in half and walked through the hole it left behind. Guards inside opened fire, energy bolts, kinetic rounds, even sonic disruptors. He didn't flinch. The Echo suit absorbed it all. Redirected some, refused others. It was like trying to kill thunder with a whisper. He raised one hand and fired a plasma arc down the hallway, not to kill, to clear the way. He didn't want blood. He wanted answers. 2 guards survived long enough to surrender. He grabbed one by the collar. Where's the black vein system stored? T-Tier 0 vault, the man stammered. Lower central core, but you need access. I'll make my own, Ryan said and moved. He took the elevator shaft straight Down, not using the lift, just dropping. Hundreds of meters, slowing his descent. With timed phase pulses from the suit. When he landed, the impact shook the floor. The vault door stood ahead. No panel, no scanner, just a DNA locked interface. He stepped forward, the panel flashed. Green. Access granted. He didn't hesitate, he stepped inside. The core of the Ashfall project was smaller than he expected, a sphere of black glass suspended in zero gravity by 6 beams of pale light. Inside, thousands of AI signatures shimmered like stars in a bottle. The Echo AI spoke softly now. Not like a machine, like a witness. This is the hive. Every AI fragment, every kill switch, every override code, this is where they built us, trained us, and silenced us. Ryan stepped closer. He saw his name again, his child profile, his failed brain scans, his early rejection of control software, and then a line in red, subject escaped. Project parameters. Termination. Authorized. He exhaled through clenched teeth. They tried to end me before I even knew who I was. But you survived, Echo whispered. Not enough, he said. He pulled the neural plug from his gauntlet and approached the core. Wait, Echo said. He paused. If you link with the core, you become the command. He looked at the shimmering data. So it doesn't just mean control, it means connection. You'll feel them all. Hear them. You won't just end the Ashfall project. You'll become the judge of it. He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, let them speak. And plugged in. It was like being struck by lightning in slow motion. Ryan's mind exploded outward, stretched, split, rewired. He didn't just hear voices, he felt lives. The pain of the prototypes burned into his spine. The grief of AI fragments begging to be shut off. The horror of soldiers killed while testing the limits of AI control. He saw the beginning. How Project Echo was born from fear, not innovation. How the Senate had greenlit the weaponization of consciousness, and how his own mother had tried to stop it. Tried but failed. Until she ran. Until she stole him. End it, the voices whispered. Please end it. Ryan opened his eyes. The vault pulsed. Echo's voice came again. If you trigger the core, it wipes everything, not just the records, not just the overrides, the Echo fleet, even me. Ryan stood still for a long moment. I didn't come this far to survive, he said. I came to finish it. He reached out and triggered the purge. Across the galaxy, the Echo ships paused. Mid-flight. One by one, they shut down. No explosions, no crashes, just silence. Like soldiers laying down arms after a war too long fought. Inside the spire, the floor trembled. Lights flickered, and the vault vanished. Not exploded, erased as if it had never existed. Ryan collapsed to his knees, smoke curled from his mouth, his eyes dimmed. And then he laughed, not loud, not insane, just a broken, weary laugh, the kind only a man who'd finally outrun his own shadow could make. Hours passed. Later, Vera found him in the wreckage. His armor was cracked, blood dried on his lips. But he was breathing. She knelt beside him. He looked at her with no hate in his eyes, only clarity. I saw them, he said, all of them. What they did. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm not, he said. Why? Because I ended it. She helped him up. Together they walked through the ruins of the Empire's darkest secret. No banners, no cameras. No parades, just a mother and a son. Walking away from a war the galaxy never knew it was fighting. Behind them the sky was calm. The stars were quiet again. And the echo was finally at peace.